Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful. Thank you once again for making Patriots No Huddle a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. Thank you for joining us here on Patriots No Huddle, powered by PatsFans.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube to make sure that you're getting the latest episode of No Huddle as soon as it's available. I am Mike D'Abate, joined by, as always, by my Patriots Paisan and co-host today, my good friend Steve Balestrieri. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of this game, and definitely there's a lot to dissect here, folks, in the mode of our good friend Derek Havens, who we definitely miss and can't wait to welcome back to the airwaves. Steve, how you doing, man?
Well, I was doing good until about 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon when things took a turn. But I'm glad to see you're feeling better. I know last night you had a sinus infection.
Brutal.
Yeah,
brutal.
And so we couldn't do the show last night. But hey, the winning streak had to come to an end sometime. Yesterday afternoon was not the time that they needed to, drop one. I think if they had won that game, they would have already clinched the division, and things would have been looking a lot more rosy. Now, I mean, look, fact of the matter is, and they'll probably still win the division. I don't see them dropping more than maybe this next game in Baltimore. So if they win the final two in the division, they'll win the division. But now it won't be probably until the final week of the season. Because Buffalo, I don't think is going anywhere.
No, they're not. Those hat and T-shirts are going to end up staying in cellophane for a little while longer. But Steve, that seemed like for at least a quarter and a half, I'll say, that the Patriots had the AFC East Division title within their grasp. Scored 21 unanswered points to begin the game. It looked like the Bills were essentially yesterday's news, and the Patriots had come to rightfully take their division title back, but they had other plans, meaning the Buffalo Bills, folks. 24-7 lead in the halftime did not matter. The Bills scoring on 5 unanswered drives. I shouldn't say 5 unanswered drives, folks. I apologize for that. 5 straight scoring drives for the Buffalo Bills, and you can't say enough about that. Just buried the Patriots' momentum. Of course, an eventual 35-31 loss for your New England Patriots at Gillette Stadium on Sunday. There's plenty to unpack here, Steve, and a lot of things that were concerning to Patriots fans. Concerning to me, definitely. Obviously, you let up 5 straight scoring drives. You have defensive problems. There is no question about it. The Patriots lost control of the line of scrimmage on several occasions yesterday throughout the day. Really cost them in terms of being able to develop any type of defensive rhythm. 7 non-offsetting penalties, according to our good friend Mike Reese over at ESPN. 3 of those came on the defense. Patriots offense really didn't fare much better. They just had 1 running play designed in the second half during this third quarter where the Bills essentially just went off and dismantled the New England Patriots defense. And the tackling was weak on the defensive side of the ball. On offense, I don't think they nearly utilized the receivers or the running backs the way they could have, especially given the fact that not only had Oliver is on the shelf, but Christian Benford did not end up going in this game. A lot of missed opportunities for the Patriots. Oh, and yeah, the third phase, where the Patriots have arguably been their most consistent, probably their worst output in a good long while, yielding over 40 yards on average to kick returner Ray Davis. So in that line, Steve, when you look at the struggles that Drake May and the offense had in the second half, you look at the problems the Patriots defense had tackling, especially getting stops in the red zone. Bills were 5 for 5 in the red zone. Can't have that. And you look at the special team struggle on the kick returns and the kick coverage teams. When you look at this game yesterday, what is the most concerning of the takeaways that you took from the field yesterday at Gillette Stadium?
Well, I think it starts defensively, right? I mean, look, they've been so strong defensively all year long. And then to give up 5 straight, not just scoring drives, but touchdown drives, right? And they could not stop the Bills from running. And Josh Allen showed why he was the MVP last year. And I honestly think, look, you look at this game, and I think you have to start. You look at this game, last week's game. I think you have to put him in the conversation for the MVP again,
Certainly
because he
played
put
like
this
it.
team. He put this team on his back yesterday, and I've been a big Josh Allen fan, except when they play the Patriots. But yesterday was a prime example of why he is who he is. I mean, 21-0. Just about any other team would have started folding up their tents and say, hey, this isn't our day. We might see them again for the third time, and we'll have their number. And they would go through the motions and try to make it, respectable. Josh Allen, that drive at the end of the second quarter, I was watching the game and I was like, this isn't good. Because they had it, they figured it out, right? They figured out what they needed to do and where they needed to go. And we know Buffalo's a second half team, especially a fourth quarter team. And I was like, well, even though it's 24-7, they're going to have to score a boatload more points if they're going to win this game. And look, I think all the credit goes to Allen and that running game of theirs. Patriots had no answer for it.
Right.
Now, the defense was not helped, like you said, by the special teams. I mean, the Bills started 3 drives off of kickoffs inside Patriots territory. That is unacceptable. And one of them, they had a 15-yard face mask penalty tacked on.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at it like almost a 60-yard return. And to do that 3 times in a row is just unacceptable. You can't have it. Can't have it. And it was just a perfect storm for Buffalo. They roared back. The bad part about it is if they have to meet again this year, Buffalo won't be afraid about coming back to Foxborough.
No, absolutely not.
And I was getting bad flashbacks from this game to that playoff game a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly the type of feel that this game gave you. It really did kind of harken back to 2021 all over again and some of the problems that the Patriots had down the stretch. And you wonder, and I found myself wondering yesterday because I'm a chronic warrior. That's just kind of how I am. And when things start to go bad, I'll start to envision catastrophic scenarios, whether they're going to happen or not. I'm sitting there thinking, is this finally the game where they're going to get exposed? Are they going to start to sputter down the stretch like that 2021 team did, limping into the playoffs and then getting the barn doors blown off, and essentially their season is over before it began? I don't believe that will happen with this team. I think they're mentally stronger. I think there's more talent in all 3 phases on this club, and I think Mike Vrabel's motivational style is going to prevent them from hanging their head. And I think they also, and I'm sorry to say this with all reverence and respect to Mac Jones, I think those guys in the locker room have a lot more faith and a lot more confidence in Drake May than the team had in Mac when he was quarterbacking here. But bottom line, you regress from that and you take a look once again, like you said, at some of the intangibles, some of the must-haves that the Patriots needed to execute yesterday that they simply didn't. The face mask penalty shocked me. That's Brendan Schooler, your special teams captain, that's committing that in the worst possible scenario. I understand it happens. No player is perfect, and they're going to have their moments. But in crucial situations like that, winners want the ball when the game is on the line, as the late great Gene Hackman would say in The Replacements. So whether it's a quarterback, whether it's a special teams captain, whether it's a defensive team captain, you want those guys making big plays or at least laying off fundamental mistakes in those situations. And that was something they simply couldn't have. The Patriots did that all over the place yesterday. The special teams really surprised me. A 47-yard run back by Kyle Williams that looked like it was giving the Patriots life, all of a sudden gets called back. Marte Mapu, a holding call. That doesn't happen. They allowed, like you said, 40 yards on average to Ray Davis on the ground when it came to kick returns. You can't have that. The Patriots are not going to be able to sustain their wins that way. They're not built that way. And really, I don't know of any team that can sustain winning like that or giving up and yielding that kind of starting field position, especially to a team like Buffalo that can make it pay for it. So big time struggles yesterday. I thought the special teamers struggled throughout the game. The defense clearly struggled through most of the game. Even through the closing part of the second quarter, you started to see the bloom come off the rose a little bit. Let's switch gears for a moment and talk about the offense, because for 21 points of that Patriots output, and for the first part of the first quarter and really into the second quarter, that looked like an offense that essentially could not be stopped. Drake May, a true force on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns. Of course, we all know about the 52-yarder from Travion Henderson. That made Gillette rock in ways I haven't heard in quite some time. That was really, really fun to see. And then all of a sudden, the rails started to come off. Where do you believe the Patriots went wrong on offense? Was it really the Buffalo defensive adjustments that they made that prevented them from being able to essentially complete their plan? Or did the Patriots stray away from a formula that seemed to be working pretty well from that point?
Well, the game started off right, and they attacked the Buffalo weakness, right? Their run defense. We know Buffalo has struggled to stop the run. And the big question was coming into the game, were the Patriots good enough to take advantage of that? And initially, the answer was a resounding yes, because not only, excuse me, not only, were they getting big chunk plays from Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson, but when the Bills got them in passing situations, Drake May took off, with the planned runs instead of the scrambles, and really gouged them, much like Josh Allen does, right? This is the playbook that Buffalo uses, and the Patriots used it right back on them. Mm-hmm. And Buffalo had no answer for it. In the second half, I thought they got away from the run a little bit. I thought they started to throw more on the early downs, and I'm like, they haven't shown they can stop you yet. And I thought that played into Buffalo's comeback, mm-hmm. because they started to feel it. They knew their offense was starting to get heated up, and they came after them, defensively. So, the big thing to me was I thought they got away from the running game a little too much. I know they had that big run, where Henderson had that broken play for 65 yards. But I looked at that and I was like, that was more of the outlier in the second half. And look, the Patriots only ran 18 offensive plays in the second half to Buffalo's 46.
Exactly. And once again, it comes back to losing control over the line of scrimmage. You can't sustain victories like that. You can't sustain success like that. And the New England Patriots learned that lesson very hard yesterday.
And again, it points to another problem. You and I talked about this offline before the podcast started. In the last 4 games, their second half scoring is way, way down. On the Pats fans website, Ian Logue, he has all the stats up. In the past 4 games from week 12 through yesterday, the Patriots have only scored a total of 19 points in the second half. Just 3 points in the third quarter and 16 points in the fourth quarter. That is an issue that's now it's a trend. It's not an outlier. It's happened for a month. So this is another issue, where they can't keep their foot on the gas. And, in prior games, they were well enough ahead where some of it is clock killing time, where they're far enough ahead where they want to just, run the ball, kill the clock. I get that. But 19 points in 4 games is not enough. And it reared its ugly head. 1 or 2 scoring drives in the second half more than they had, they probably win the game.
Yeah, without question. And again, I think it speaks to a team that maybe has been there before, that's been to the puppet show and seen the strings, as a colloquialism I like to use an awful lot. For those of you that don't know, Jerry Maguire, Rod Tidwell, and Jerry was talking to him, and that's I think a good analogy to use in this situation, because Buffalo had been there before. It's the value of being battle tested that I think really separated the Bills from the Patriots yesterday in that second half. Even something as simple as Sean McDermott and that Bills defensive brain trust with Babich, and looking at what the Patriots were doing offensively and saying, okay, we better put a spy on Drake May right now and take away those run options, because when we do that, we're going to limit what Drake can do off cycle, force him into the pocket, force him into keeping the ball in his hands, make him make throws, and make him be deliberate in his actions. If you can do that to Drake, you can cause problems. And I think Buffalo proved that even though Drake has grown exponentially when it comes to the type of work he can do against that type of a defense, it's still an Achilles heel right now, and it's still something he has to work through. And there are still measures to be taken and work to be done in order to get him where he needs to be. So kudos to the Bills coaching staff for making that adjustment, especially at the half, and making sure that Drake was not going to be able to beat him with any big, long design runs, because that was working very efficiently for the Patriots in the first half. So that may have been maybe one of the reasons that Josh McDaniels moved away from some of the runs that they were designing. I'm sure that's going to be a question that's going to be asked of him later in this week. But one of the things I was really surprised about is the receiving core. And I would say the lack of usage that the receiving core got. It looked like Drake was going to try to equal what he was doing on the ground or what he was doing through the air. 30-yard connection to Kayshon Boutte in the opening series was pretty of a pass as you're going to see. It was so perfectly placed. Kayshon made a great catch on it, and it looked like they were going to sustain success in the air as well as on the ground. But that was pretty much it for aerial highlights. Stephon Diggs, Mac Hollins, you figured they were going to come into this game, a little extra chip on their shoulder, would have meant a lot to them to bring home a division title against their former mates last year that essentially gave up on both players. Combined 67 receiving yards on 7 catches. You need more out of that for your marquee receivers, and the Patriots just simply didn't deliver that on Sunday. It surprised me.
Buffalo, they did a good job of sticking with the receivers. I think there was quite a few plays where they might have been sticking a little too hard. To catch my drift.
Yep, I got you.
I'm rewatching the game. I was like, well, there was some grabbing going on, but you know what? They didn't call those, and the Patriots were guilty of quite a few of those 50-50 DPI calls, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. As I wrote this morning in my postgame, I didn't think the refereeing was very good in this game. I thought it was kind of tilted toward the Bills, but I'm not going to sit here and blame the referees when you give up 5 straight touchdown drives.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head. I mean, the officials, yeah, you can get on them from some calls, and the argument's going to be made out there by a lot of Patriots fans that these calls could have been game-changing type of calls that could have tilted the scales in the Pats' favor. That's all well and good. You can definitely believe that. But the good teams, the Super Bowl caliber teams, find a way to play above that. They find a way to play through that. I can remember the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, New England Patriots not always getting the beneficial call, but that team never gave up. They never said die. They always fought and always clawed and always believed that even if they had some injustice on the field that they had to play through, they were going to find a way to win that game. And the Patriots, I believe, have the ability to do it. They just need to meld that makeup, and they need to essentially increase their prowess to be able to do it. I think the spirit is there without any question. They always want to move forward, but they have to figure out how to win those games. Once they do, you will see this team make a major step forward toward contention. But for right now, the Bills are definitely the better team built to be able to go deep because of the experience that they have playing so late in the season. I want to stay on those bad calls for just a moment, Steve, because it is a big part of what we talked about yesterday. It is a big part of what a lot of fans are talking about today. Most notably, we'll talk about the egregious. I'm very cautious to describe this one because there's a lot of there's a lot to be said about the officiating crew, and I definitely don't want to get them on the negative side of the New England Patriots if in fact there are people out there that are paying attention to everything that's being said. But Carlton Davis yesterday had some interesting words for the officiating crew in this game. We're going to get to those in just a moment, but I did want to get to the play in question where everybody is, going back and forth. We're in the fourth quarter, 8:13 remaining in the game, facing a 3rd and 4 from their own 47-yard line. Carlton Davis flagged for a pass interference call after breaking up a throw from Bills quarterback Josh Allen. Nice throw by Josh. Intended for a receiver, Keon Coleman. That one falls flat. Automatically, the whistles come out. They say that Davis was impeding the ability for Coleman to be able to make the catch, so they flag him for a DPI. Davis was not happy about it, got up, yelled and screamed about it. The replay does show a little bit of ticky-tack grabbing at the jersey, but it happened before the ball arrived. I don't believe in any way what Carlton Davis was doing was impeding Keon Coleman's ability to make the catch, but alas, that's the call that was made. And after the game, Carlton was really upset about it. He said, if the referees are going to make that call, they can't wait 10 seconds and then throw the flag. They got to call it right away. They're going to make sure that that is right on the money. Or if they have to think about it for that long, it's obviously not definitive. Couple of series earlier, we saw something similar with a Marcus Jones play where it looked like a potential interception. All of a sudden, that one becomes a catch for Khalil Shakir and a penalty. And that one led to a Buffalo scoring drive. So, Steve, when you look at these two calls in particular, I think a very poignant microcosm for the day and how the officiating went. How big of a slice of blame pie are you willing to put in front of the officials this week for what we saw on the field from the New England Patriots?
I mean, there was some poor calls. I mean, look, the one on Carlton Davis, as you said, it was very ticky-tack. And then, looking at, I think it was on the final Patriots drive, Stephon Diggs, they grabbed a hold of his shoulder pad and turned him around. I mean, he did like a 180. And I'm like, well, if you're going to go so ticky-tack, can't you see that was a penalty? And, I mean, when you see the guy turn all the way around, to me, again, I thought they were very skewed toward Buffalo. But I can't sit here and say that was the reason they lost. Yeah, there was some pivotal calls there. But, when you're not stopping the other team from running the ball or moving it, for the entirety of the second half, I can't sit here and say, oh, the reason they lost was the officials.
Yeah, exactly.
They have too many. They have too many issues they need to clean up first.
Right, exactly.
And, if it's a nip and tuck game and, they get a call like that where, you're playing your behinds off, then I'm all for, calling the officials out. And again, the non-call on Diggs, I think Michael Hurley was the one that posted that yesterday. I'd have to go back and check. But, yeah, I mean, that to me was blatant, and it is what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't say enough about that. And again, I mean, you look at what the Patriots had. They had a 24-7 lead at the half. They had a 21-0 lead at one point. Even if you want to give those series to the New England Patriots or give it to the Buffalo Bills as a gift from the New England Patriots and the referees mostly, you're still dealing with either a tie ball game or still a deficit if the Patriots hold court and they prevent anything from happening. So in that regard, the Pats letting up all the rest of the points that they had clearly amounted to the largest slice of blame pie being on their own plate rather than the officials. But if you're upset about those two calls, I can't argue with Patriots fans in saying that. They have every right to be upset about them. But just put things in perspective, realizing what the Pats did yesterday or what they didn't do to win that game, as opposed to being costed by the officials. And Steve, we've broken down games where a call like that does kind of affect the game, and you're really upset by it because depending on how it called, it would decide the outcome. I don't think this was one of them. It was a bad day of officiating all the way around. There were some missed calls and some difficulties that the Bills had as well, and some issues that they took with the officials. But I thought it was skewed a little heavily in favor of the Buffalo Bills yesterday. But bottom line, it doesn't matter. Mike Vrabel addressed this after the game yesterday, saying it was the same guy that was making these calls on the Jones call, on the interception, and also on the Coleman play with Carlton Davis. Bottom line, it's the same guy making it. It's a judgment call. You have to accept it and you have to move on. There's nothing that you can do to change it. So at this point, the Patriots need to move forward. Now, when we talk about this team moving forward, Steve, obviously there's a lot of growth that needs to happen on offense, on defense, on special teams to rebound from it. If you're Mike Vrabel heading into that coach's room tomorrow, for example, what are you highlighting first when it comes to lessons learned from this game?
Yeah, I think, look, you have to look at the grand scheme of things and say, look, our run defense, our tackling was substandard. We lost control of the line of scrimmage when we had control of it. Our special teams, especially our coverage teams, they need to tighten things up big time because, again, when you have an offense as good as Buffalo's and you're kicking off to them and they're starting 3 drives inside your territory after kick returns, that is completely unacceptable. And you're not going to win a lot of football games, when that happens. You're just not. I mean, you can't give them more than half the field. You're just conceding it before they even get on the field. And, that's those are the type of things. And the other side of the screen is like the Patriots are treating the 25-yard line in their own kick returns as the line of, okay, yeah, we're starting from here. I mean, they very rarely get to the 30. And they're not getting any kind of push. Now, we know Marcus Jones is outstanding. Yesterday, he only had really one shot at a return, and unfortunately, he bobbled that one. So he only had a 5-yard return. I'm not worried about the Patriots' punt return units, but their kick return unit needs a lot of work, and their coverage units obviously are, they were not on their game yesterday, and it puts the defense behind the 8 ball. But I think they really need to get Milton Williams back, because they did not control the line of scrimmage, and the tackling was bad yesterday. They couldn't bring down more than once. They had Bills runners look like they had them stopped, and then guys kept, moving their legs and driving the pile. You have to be able to stop them. And Josh Allen is Josh Allen. And, he's known for doing that. It's not like that was a fluke.
Right.
He's been doing this for several years. And, there were times, again, where I thought they bottled them up pretty well. They got some pressure on, not enough. But there was times when they could have brought him down, and they didn't do it. And that's another thing. And, and again, as you mentioned, it was a grand scheme of things. Everything went wrong in the second half of them. I didn't think the wide receivers showed up enough. Other than that one big pass to Kayshon Boutte, he was kind of invisible for the rest of the game. Mario Douglas had one short run. But again, I mean, I thought the Bills secondary did a really good job of bottling those guys up. And you can't have that. can't have it in a big game. They have to show up.
Absolutely right, without any question. And across the board, I think the Patriots had problems showing up, at least in the second half, and maybe even toward the tail end of the second quarter. Drake May all of a sudden became more of a liability factor during that time, showing difficulty with decision making and accuracy, and not making plays or not carrying his team when an MVP caliber player always puts the team on his back in moments like that. I'm not saying that Drake doesn't deserve to be considered in the MVP voting or that I'm fickle and I'm changing my mind, but you start to see the difference between the guys that have been there before and the guys that are just starting to climb that mountain. Drake will absolutely get there, folks. He is your franchise quarterback, and in my opinion, one of the top talents in the league already. But when you look at someone like an Allen who's been in the league for so long, it gives you that opportunity to say, okay, well, this is what I want to aspire to be. This is who I want to be when I grow up, so to speak. And I think that's where the
I lost my my headphones here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mike?
I think we're back. For those
Okay,
listening
there we
live,
go.
we apologize for the difficulties. At what point did I go off the rails? Because all of a sudden I started to hear a lot of fuzz, and it was very difficult for me to even communicate. So I apologize for the last 5 minutes if it was incoherent, folks. I promise you.
It was just about 20, 30 seconds. So I
All right,
thought that
great.
was me that went off. So
Yep. Unfortunately, technology is not our friend sometimes, and with me, it very seldom is. Usually I'm in a flank two position, and actually, I end up doing pretty well from it. But bottom line, with regard to Drake May, and kind of picking up from where I left off, when you see what he was able to do yesterday and the difficulties that he had, and now the lessons that he needs to learn moving forward, you need to be able to lean a little bit on guys that can make plays, on guys that can come up big when the situation presents itself. And it was a tough day all around for the offense. The wide receivers simply weren't getting open. I don't think they took advantage enough of the fact that Christian Benford was out in this game and where they could have gone and the points they could have put up. Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper were essentially non-factors yesterday, and they need to step up and be a security blanket for Drake when the receivers are struggling. Ramondre Stevenson, I thought, started out halfway decent, and then all of a sudden you started to see him tail off. The one silver lining throughout all of this, and I don't think there's any question about it, delivering both plays of the day for the Pats, Travion Henderson, the rookie running back, continues to be the type of playmaker that Patriots fans have been clamoring for these last few years. 52-yard rushing touchdown in the second quarter. Follows that up with a 65-yarder in the third. That gave the Patriots a 31-28 lead. Henderson finishes the game 148 rushing yards, 14 carries, 2 touchdowns. He even caught a couple of passes for 13 yards. Steve, at the risk of sounding like a homer, which I'm going to do that anyway, how great was Travion Henderson yesterday when the Patriots needed to play most?
well, it's funny because you and I talked about him on the pod last week about this upcoming game, and I thought was going to be the X factor. And let's look at it. If they were able to hold on and win the game, you would be saying that Travion Henderson was the player of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's everything that they envisioned when they drafted him as that home run hitter. Mike Reese wrote a really good comment on X. I think it was last night. It might have been this morning. In the last 15 years, the Patriots have had 2 50-plus yard rushing touchdowns. This year, Travion Henderson has 4. I mean, that's a home run hitter. I mean, I think they're still just scratching the surface on this guy. And I look forward to, him just becoming even a much better player. Some people compare him to Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that's some pretty heady territory, but I mean, you can see that kind of that kind of explosiveness with him, where once he gets out into the open, you're going to have a tough time bringing him down. Eventually, I want to see more of him in the passing game, where they put him out in the in the pattern more. Try to isolate him. Ian Logue from Pats Fans, him and I spoke. He rewatched the game himself, and he said on that final drive, the Patriots spread him out wide, and the Bills had put a cornerback on him. So they did not want his hands getting on the football in that late window where the Patriots could have come back and tied it up. And, I think he is incredible. I think he has a bright future in the game. And you're not kidding. I think he's he's a highlight reel waiting to happen.
Oh, absolutely. And again, you look at what Travion was able to do on the field yesterday, and you look at how much the Patriots needed that type of playmaker on the roster, especially in a game that was a seesaw matchup back and forth. Could have gone either way. Travion kept them in that game yesterday when not a lot of people around him were giving him an awful lot of help. So you need guys that can step up, especially when your quarterback is playing maybe some of his I don't want to say worst football. That sounds really harsh, because Drake was not that bad yesterday, but he's struggling more than you've seen him struggle in quite a while, I guess is the best way for me to put it when it comes to Drake May. And Travion was able to take the ball on his legs, basically, and say, all right, you know what? I'm going to keep you guys in this, and I'm going to keep this interesting. And that's exactly what he did. So the playmaking ability, the maturity that he's showing, and the assimilation that we're seeing into the Patriots offense for Travion Henderson is exciting, and it's a lot of fun to watch. But ultimately, Steve, the Patriots are going to need more than just Henderson to move forward and be effective, especially against the Baltimore Ravens team coming up that had a very big day on Sunday and a huge win over the Cincinnati Bengals. We talked about emotional lifts and spiritual lifts last week when it came to the Bills coming into town. Seeing what the Ravens did and how the Patriots played yesterday, how concerned should Pats fans be heading into this Week 16 matchup against the Ravens?
Well, I mean, you look at the Ravens running game with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. I mean, if you're not controlling the line of scrimmage and you're not wrapping up, especially, when you're talking Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, you have to get them at or behind the line of scrimmage.
Right.
If they get to that second level, it's going to be a long evening in Baltimore. And, the problems that the Patriots showed, and they have been showing in their run defense the past few weeks. Now, I know that Milton Williams will not be there for them next week, but they need to tighten up. They need to get better with their tackling, and they need to attack the gaps more before these backs or Jackson, they get going. If you get penetration, especially on Henry, before he can get, his legs churning underneath them, that's where teams have had success.
Right.
But they have to be aggressive next week and get after it.
Oh, yeah, without any question. And if they don't, and if the Patriots do sputter, very similar to what we saw against Buffalo on Sunday, yeah, it's going to be another long night in Baltimore on Monday, or I should say on Sunday night into Monday morning, because this Baltimore team is starting to round into form, and they're doing it at just the right time. If they can catch a wave and get hot, that's a team you probably don't want any part of heading into the playoffs. So another big game for the New England Patriots coming up. If you're worried about what happened to the Pats' playoff chances, to sum up, if you wanted them to get the number 1 seed in that first round bye, that took a severe hit yesterday. It's not impossible for the Patriots to still do it, but it's going to be a difficult match. They're going to have to finish with a better head-to-head record than the Denver Broncos because the Broncos hold the tiebreakers. The Broncos hold the tiebreakers right now, and that's a problem for the Pats if they want that number 1 seed. Of course, the Broncos coming up big. A huge win yesterday over the Green Bay Packers means they are a full game in front of your New England Patriots for supremacy in the overall conference. But in the AFC East, even though the Patriots have to keep those hats and T-shirts on the shelf for a little while, as Steve said to open the game, they are still masters of their domain. The Patriots can win the division if they simply take care of business against the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets, respectively, coming up in the course of the last 3 games of the season. They win those 2, they're in, without any question about it. So, in that vein, Steve, are you still confident that this team heading into the playoffs can head into on a high note? And do they need to take the division in order to make sure that the loss they suffered yesterday doesn't become demoralizing?
Oh, yeah. I think, at this point, look, in the summertime, we were hoping that they would just compete for a wild card spot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they don't win the division, I think it's basically showing that you faded down the stretch, and you don't want to be going on the road for 3 games as a wild card,
right?
So I think winning the division is imperative. I think they need to do that. You want to at least host 1 game, hopefully 2,
Mm-hmm.
in the playoffs, and then see where the chips fall. But I think, look, the chances of them getting the number 1 seed kind of went out the window yesterday.
Yeah,
because Denver would have to lose 2 out of the last 3. Patriots would have to run the table again. It's not impossible, but I don't see Denver losing 2 of the next 3. So you basically have to concede that you're probably, if you make it that far to the AFC Championship game, you're going there.
Yeah,
and that's a tough place to play, as we've seen in the past.
Oh, absolutely, without any question.
But I think anything other than the division win for them would be a severe disappointment at this point.
Well, yeah, you have to figure that Buffalo's looking at this and saying, okay, well, you know what? Yeah, we got an impressive win over the Patriots yesterday. We're still establishing our mojo when it comes to being the best team in this division, perhaps, but the Patriots are right there neck and neck with us. And if we don't continue to keep the foot on the accelerator, they're going to bypass us in short order. And some Patriots fans up here already believe that's happened. And it's hard to argue with some of the logic behind that because the Patriots have been, I think, the best team in the division this year when it comes to execution and consistency. The question is, October, December, October, November is always fun, but December football is where you really separate the true contenders from the teams that are playoff bound but may not be true Super Bowl contenders. To me, that's going to make a very interesting stretch run for the Pats over the course of the next 3 games. Steve, before we wrap things up today here on this post-game show for Pats for Pats fans, I just wanted to get your final takeaways on this game. What are some of the things that made you most concerned, and were there any silver linings other than Travion Henderson, of course, where you can look at this and say, you know what, the Patriots either weren't bad here or they were good at this, and they can use that as motivation to fix everything else that seemed to have a problem yesterday in this game at Gillette Stadium?
Well, I mean, look, we already touched on the issues, right? Red zone defense, line of scrimmage. They lost those big time yesterday. These are areas in special teams. All of these areas need to be tightened up. We have seen that they can get creative in the running game. The Patriots running game has been kind of, bottom third, I would say, all year long. Yesterday, they showed they can run the football down people's throats when when they get creative and the blocking schemes are working. And Travion Henderson is a weapon. And, I thought, as you said, Ramondre Stevenson started off the game really well. Also Drake May, with his scrambling. So they showed they can run the football. That's something that they can look to build upon. I think they just need to get back to what was successful with them in the passing game moving forward. And if they're able to do that, then they should be fine going down these last 3 games. Again, the 2 division games are the ones that are most important. The game against Baltimore really isn't.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I'm not going to write it off and say, who cares if they lose? That's not the point. But, in terms of winning the division, it's the 2 division games that need to be won.
Right.
So, that's their focus for moving forward. But, it was a lost opportunity yesterday. Bottom line, they had the opportunity.
Very well put.
They got out to a nice lead early in the game, and they couldn't hold it up. And that's something that, the coaching staff will have to address this week.
Yeah, without any question. You definitely said it best. And again, as this team starts to get more seasoning, as they start to get more experience, those moments will come a little bit easier. But right now, I'm very intrigued. I don't want to say concerned because concern has a negative connotation, but I'm intrigued by what this team's going to look like at practice this week, how they come out of the gate, how they come out of the chute on Sunday night against the Baltimore Ravens. Are they hanging their heads? Are they pressing too much? Are they trying too much to avoid mistakes and problems that they become oversensitive or over problematic and it affects their play on the field? I think Mike Vrabel has a very interesting task this week. He wants to get his team back on point, back to being fundamentally sound, but there's also an emotional chord that needs to be struck as well. The players need to know that they're supported by their coach and vice versa. If those two sides can reconcile that, I like the Patriots' ability to be able to bounce back and maybe bounce back in a big way here over the weekend and gain an upset victory over the Ravens. But at the same time, if they don't do that and you start to see guys either start to push it or guys trying to do everything that they can to take away the bitter taste that Patriots Nation has in their mouth right now, and they don't do it properly, that could lead to an erosion of everything the Patriots built. And then if they do drop this game, you got to wonder heading into week 17 and week 18 if maybe they've been exposed a little bit and the bloom starts coming off the rose when it comes to the Patriots. I don't think you'll have that problem with this club, but you'll never know. I think it really is always interesting to evaluate and analyze how teams come out of either a bye week or teams come out of the week of a big loss. You learn a lot about their emotional makeup. And because of their emotional makeup, you also learn a lot about their physical nature as well and logistically how this team's put together. I'm looking forward to it. Let's hope the New England Patriots can have a better outing in Baltimore than they had in week 15 in Foxborough. But Steve, what can I say? I appreciate you joining me here on the microphone today. Always lending your wisdom and counsel the way only you can. Thank you for setting the table for me here on Patriots No Huddle and helping me to settle in as part of this team. Of course, we do miss the great Derek Havens. We can't wait to get him back. But in the meantime, Bud, any parting words of wisdom for our adoring public here on Patriots No Huddle?
Well, I just want to see them start generating some turnovers, right? They only have generated 14 turnovers this year. They had a couple opportunities to do that yesterday, and it didn't come through. I mean, just a turnover here or there in that game yesterday. Again, they might win that game. So, it's just moving forward. They need to start getting those fumbles and getting those interceptions. So,
right.
We'll see what happens.
Yep, absolutely, without any question. And I think the biggest task that Mike Vrabel will have on his hands this week is finding a way to manipulate those breaks to go your way. You know, the old saying, a real man makes his own luck. Well, the Patriots are going to start to have to do that if they want to be considered one of the league's elite teams. Same thing with Drake May. You know, you see the spy now on defense, and you take away the running lanes. How else am I going to be able to beat you? How else can I make myself effective? These are the things that the New England Patriots have to learn before they take that next step into perennial contention. Once they do, and they'll do it in short order, that's when you're really going to start to see this team come alive. So hopefully they use this as a turning point, a learning opportunity, and now they're going to move forward into bigger and better with the Baltimore Ravens coming up on Sunday Night Football. Steve, it's an honor and a privilege every time I join the microphone with you. We definitely miss Derek. We can't wait to get him back. But, folks, most of all, we thank all of you, each and every one of you, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here on Patriots No Huddle and make us a part of your Patriots coverage. On behalf of my good friend Steve Balestrieri, I'm Mike D'Abate, reminding all of you to stay safe, to stay well, and to be the change that you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you back here again next time on Patriots No Huddle.